We are live. Hello, everyone. Such a wonderful evening, and we have our guest today. So, we are just waiting for a few of you to join, and we are super duper excited to begin with this series. Meanwhile, if you're watching us, drop a hi, say hello, write your name because we are simultaneously streaming on 3, 4 different platforms, and hence we would love to hear from you as well. Hi everyone. Please drop a hi if you're watching. It's me along with our amazing guest, Dr. Preeti. We'll take a few more seconds, a few more minutes before we start the live. So we have some viewers. Please drop a hi, guys, if you're watching us. I think we have a couple of people joining on Facebook. And on Instagram as well. So, welcome to everyone. Warm welcome to all of you who are watching us. Namaste, Vibhavariji. Thank you for joining. And it's such a joy to begin the first episode of Sachidananda series. I'm more than excited to start with this. And I think I've been looking forward to start with this series. And here we are on 5th of May, which is 5/5. Now, when numbers or digits like this come, it's a great day to start something new. And that's why we are here with Sachidananda series. Nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitram iha vidyate. In this world, there is nothing as purifying as divine knowledge. So says Bhagavad Gita, Adhyay 4, Shlok 38. And as we begin on this inaugural episode of the Sachidananda series, where we explore the timeless wisdom of all the ancient Indian texts, we are thrilled to announce the launch of this great series. We will be diving deep into the profound universal wisdom of classical Indian texts. There are so many of them, but we will be starting with the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Vashishta, also Ramayana, Mahabharat, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and a lot more in the upcoming days. Every first Sunday of every month will be when we will be starting with the Sachidananda series. And in this inaugural episode, we have the absolute honor of welcoming Dr. Preeti Kulkarni as our esteemed
Hi
guest.
guys.
Welcome, Dr. Preeti.
Nice
Welcome to this show
to
and
be
thank you
here.
so much for being. Yes, thank you so much for being on this show. It's I always say that conversations with you are simply wonderful, and I've always loved those conversations with you. And I thought, how about extending it to all our viewers who would love to watch and learn so much from this beautiful series? Now, in today's episode, we are going to talk about the wonderful world of Panchakoshas. It's a great topic. I always wanted to learn more about the Panchakosha. Being a Reiki practitioner, I have learned a little bit about it, but when I had a conversation with Dr. Preeti about it, I realized that, oh my God, there is so much more to know about this. And hence, that's going to be our topic for today. But before we go there, I'm going to give a small introduction of our guest today, Dr. Preeti Kulkarni. So, well, Dr. Preeti Kulkarni she is today bringing wealth of knowledge. A born Mumbaikar and always Mumbaikar at heart. A medical graduate from Are Poddar Ayurvedic Medical College, Mumbai. Post graduation in emergency medicine from Symbiosis Center for Health Education and Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital. She's been practicing medicine in Lanja, Ratnagiri for more than 20 years. She's the founder and director of Ayushman Nursing Home, Lanja. She is Ministry of Ayush certified yoga master and a yoga therapeutic consultant. Her special interests are in women's health, in prevention of disease by practicing Ashtanga Yoga, and to this end, conducting camps and workshops teaching yoga and school and colleges, conducting online workshop for regular people, patients with lifestyle disorders, and she aims to nurture the future generations of a strong Bharat by conducting Garbha Sanskar classes for pregnant women. She loves to study and discuss the various concepts of Vedanta with a deep understanding of ancient Indian wisdom. We are delighted and honored to have her and have her wisdom on the concept of Panchakosha. So that was a wonderful introduction. And I'm just reading and I felt, oh, we are so blessed to have you here. So thank you so much for
Thank
joining.
you.
We just have some high comments from Singapore. Anagha, Kaustub, Devika, Tambe, and Abhijit Patharkar. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. And Dr. Preeti, should we proceed to the questions and start deep diving into the subject of koshas?
Yes, yes, surely. But before that, I would like to thank you, Dr. Ashwini, for first of all starting this wonderful forum and letting me be a speaker on this forum, sharing whatever thoughts I have, whatever little I have learned. I would like to share with all of you. And I would like to quote Swami Vivekananda. He says that no knowledge is created, it only is
Hmm.
awakened. So,
Wow.
if our discussion today awakens
Yeah.
even an iota of knowledge in any one of our audience, viewers, we would be, truly successful in our endeavor. So,
Yes,
with
yes.
best wishes for your success for Sachidananda, let's proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have more people who are saying a hello. So before we deep dive into conversations, I'm just going to say hello to Prachi from Mumbai. Prachi, thank you for joining. And I think that's for now. If I'm going to miss out on saying hello to anyone, please please bear with that and please continue to send your love and best wishes to us. All right. So, great topic. My first question, the word kosha itself always has intrigued me. I always wanted to know more about it. So, what's a kosha? Can you please start defining that?
Yeah. We'll start with what is Panchakosha. Today we are talking
Yes.
about Panchakosha. Pancha,
Yeah.
of course, you mean five. Kosha, so it has got two meanings. One,
Yeah.
it means a treasure.
Yeah.
Kosh also means a covering, or you can say a sheath. So, what our Shastra
Sheath.
says is the
Hmm.
Pancha Kosha covers the Atman.
Hmm.
Understand it?
Hmm.
Pancha Kosha covers the Atman. That is
Hmm.
why every everything is every human being is made up of Pancha Kosha. That is five
Hmm.
layers.
Yeah.
We are getting this concept from the Taittiriya Upanishad
Hmm.
of Panchakosha.
Hmm.
The Taittiriya Upanishad is one of the most popular, most what you call knowledgeable Upanishads. There, as you know, there are 108 Upanishads,
Yeah.
of which the 10 which have the commentary by Adi Shankaracharya, they are
Hmm.
considered to be the most important ones. And
Hmm.
Taittiriya Upanishad is one of those 10.
Hmm.
In the Taittiriya Upanishad, you have three sections: the Shikshavalli, the Anandavalli, and the Bhruguvalli. So, this third section, the Bhruguvalli, wherein the Maharshi Bhrugu, when he is
Hmm.
a student and he is asking his teacher, who am I? So his teacher is guiding him through the concept of who am I, that self-awareness of who you truly are. And as you know, the Indian wisdom, the Indian Guru Shishya Parampara, there were no lecture halls, there were no fixed syllabus. It was depending on the capacity of the student, how much the student will absorb what the Guru has said, how much he can understand and assimilate. And based on that, the Guru would guide the student to think and explore the concepts deeper and deeper. And so the Taittiriya Upanishad, the third chapter, takes us through this journey of Maharshi Bhrigu into the understanding of who am I. And here he has said, described the 5 sheets: the Annamay Kosh, the Pranamay Kosh, the Manomay Kosh, the Vijnanamay Kosh, and the Anandamay Kosh. If you want English names, we can say the Annamay Kosh is the food sheet. The Pranamay Kosh is the energy or the vital sheath. Manomay Kosh is the mental sheath. The Vijnanamay Kosh is the intellectual sheath. And the Anandamay Kosh is the sheath of bliss. So these are the 5 koshas.
Wow. Wow. And I think the word Anandamay Kosh itself makes you feel that the ultimate purpose of our life is to be in that state. That's
Yes.
what just when I just heard it for the first time, that's what I thought first. So
Yeah, what
wow,
you are
that's
saying is true. Vedanta says the purpose of life is permanent, indestructible happiness. That is our goal.
wow. And permanent, indestructible, these 2 words are so important because many of us attain happiness, but we don't stay there. And we always believe that, oh, what if my happiness is being taken away? So the word permanent and indestructible is so important here, because when you say permanent, indestructible happiness, it defines that it's a state of just being there. So
Yeah.
wow, that's really wonderful. So moving towards the next part of it, or rather I will say going a little more deeper into this, can you just break down the components of each of the Panchakosha so that our audience can understand them better?
Yeah, surely. Let us start with first the concept that the body, the gross body as we know,
Yeah.
is just one part of what makes a human being. So there is a gross body, there is a subtle body, and there is a causal body. These 3 parts. The gross body you can see, the subtle body is of course subtler, and the causal body is just to be felt, experienced. So the Annamay Kosh is the gross body. The next 3, the Pranamay, the Manomay, and the Vijnanamay Kosh, form the subtle body, and the causal body is the Anandamay Kosh, the Karana Sharir. Let us start with the grossest, and we will go down deeper and deeper into it. So the Annamay Kosh is the gross body or the Sthula Sharir. Sthula Sharir, as anatomy we can understand, the skin, the bones, the muscles, the nerves, the blood vessels, everything is the Annamay Kosh. Why is it called the Annamay Kosh? Because it is created from food. Another thing, it is as nashvar as food. You keep food outside for 2 days without refrigerating it, without reheating it, something like that, and it's going to get destroyed. And same is true with this. Because it is formed of the Pancha Mahabhuta. Prithvi, Aap, Tej, Vayu, and Akash. As you know, the whole universe is composed of these 5 elements. There is nothing in the world, from the tiniest of the atom to the largest and largest of everything. That there is nothing which is not, when you can say, there is no Panchamahabhut in this. No, everything is composed of Panchamahabhut.
Yeah.
So, it is composed of the Panchamahabhut. It is created from food, because as you all know, we become what we eat.
Yes.
Each and every cell in our body, it is born, it has some function to perform, and it dies. The body is born again and again, again and again, cell by cell. So this, it is nourished and it is sustained by food. That is why it is the Annamaya Kosh. So what we say is not only what food you eat, how you eat, when you eat, the attitude with which you eat, all of it is important in forming the Annamaya Kosh. Then we go on. You have to understand that each and every, when you, let's compare modern and Ayurveda or the ancient text.
Yes.
You
Yes.
say bone. So bone, I will say Prithvi, Vayu, Akash. You say muscle, I will say Prithvi Dhatu. Okay, you say med, I will say Jala and Prithvi mix.
Okay.
So it does compare to what modern sciences say.
Yeah.
Correspond to that. And so all the 5 components are the Annamaya Kosh. It is the gross body which is left behind when the person dies.
Yeah.
That, because we say Panchamahabhutats hota te Panchamahabhutat vilin zala.
Billions and
All of the humankind has different ways of returning the body to the elements. Whether we are cremating it, whether you are burying them, whether the Parsi way of having it, whatever it is, everything it is, what is belonging to the Panchamahabhut goes back to the Panchamahabhut.
Yes.
So that goes the Annamaya Kosh. Now let us go deeper. From the Pranamaya, we go, from the Annamaya, you go to the Pranamaya. So we are seeing the gross body. What happens when the person dies? What do you say? Prana gele.
Pran gele, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the term you use. So
Yes.
that prana which leaves the body forms the Pranamaya Kosh. That prana is the vital energy. The energy which is running through the body, flowing continuously through the body, through the energy channels. It is said that there are 72,000 energy channels in the body. And it is through this the pran flows through the body, and as long as the pran flows in the body, there is life. It is said that yavat vayu sthito dehe tavat jeevanam uchyate maranam tasya nishkrantihi tato vayu nirodhe. So as long as you keep the pran in the body, that is called jeevana. Once it is gone, that is marana.
Wow. And Dr. Preeti, this is when we as energy healing practitioners, when we work through energy, the objective of carrying out the energy healing sessions is to optimize energy in the person's existence. And that's I think that's where Pranamaya Kosh comes into picture. Yeah.
That is what is said. Na tato vayu nirodhe. You have to retain the energy, because there is no system in the body to store prana. You cannot. You stop the breath. How long are you going to live? 3 minutes maximum. But at the same time, we have a great lineage of rishis and maharshis who have done tapas for 12 years only on that prana, or with controlling, stopping the breath for a few moments. They have lived for hours. They have stayed alive. So that is the science of pranayama.
Wow.
Now I would like to go further into the components of the Pranamaya Kosh. So Pranamaya Kosh has the 5 organs of action, the Pancha Karmendriya and the Pancha Prana as its component. Let us understand both in a bit more detail.
Sure.
5 organs of action are the Jivva, that is the tongue, the Hasta, that is hands, Pada, that is legs, the Upastha, that is the genitals, and the Payu, that is anus. Once again, please understand, I'm not talking about the anatomical structures. I'm talking about their functional component.
Right.
I'm not talking about the anatomical tongue. I'm talking about the ability of the tongue to make sounds. That is the karma of that organ. I'm talking about the ability of the hand to pick up something. That is the karmendriya. And each and everything you see here, there is some amount of motion which is required. And that motion, that is only due to the prana. Nothing can move. Nothing, I will elaborate, nothing in the universe can move without prana. You will not have air, you will not have blood flowing through your vessels, you will not have electrical impulses running through your nerves, you will not have thoughts running through your mind. Ayurveda says, Niyanta praneta cha manasah. That is the vat which is followed. Not only that, it is saying Vayu Tantra Yantra Dharah. पूरे यूनिवर्स का वो तंत्र यंत्रधर है. It is controller of the whole universe. That is the prana.
The big boss.
Big boss, yes. So how do we understand prana? Like I said, you see a dead body and you say pran gele. What do you see first? You see whether that person is breathing. So the breath is the grossest manifestation of prana. Okay. Then with the breath, the prana enters the body. And once it enters the body, according to its functional and the location where it is working, those components, it is divided into pancha prana. The prana, the udana, apana, samana and vyana. These are the 5 ayus.
Right.
It is a very big topic to go in. We would surely explore it some other day.
Some other day for sure, yeah.
Yes. For now, to understand, this all form the pranamaya kosha, the energy sheath or the energy channel. This pranamaya kosh is the outermost of the subtle body.
Okay.
Okay. So this of the 3 koshas of the subtle body, this is the outermost. We can say the pranamaya kosh is the bridge between the gross and the subtle, between the annamaya kosh and the manomaya kosh. It is so very important. From here now, we go to the next kosha, that is the manomaya kosha.
Manomaya kosha.
Manomaya kosha, as it says, the mental sheath. Of course, the mind is going to be a component of this sheath, and the 5 sense organs. But once more, let us digress here a bit and understand the mind according to the Vedanta or our ancient texts. In modern psychology, we say mind, the psyche.
Yes.
It's one. Okay. But in Vedanta, it has 4 components. You can say the functional components on what it does or what part it plays. The mind is divided into 4 parts. The mana, the chitta, the buddhi and the ahankara. The mana and chitta are part of the manomaya kosh, while the buddhi and ahankara are more subtle and they are the part of the vijnanamaya kosh.
Okay.
So now the 5 sense organs, mana and chitta, are the components of the manomaya kosh.
Manomaya kosh. Okay. Okay. So usually when we use the word mana, I think the English language mind may not be able to give justice to what
Yes, it
the
does
mana
it.
is about.
Psychology, modern psychology also is delving deeper to in it and having a few more like the id, the ego and the superego components. It is somewhat similar to what this is, but this is more scientific and what is in our ancient text. Today we are going studying that. So understand mana and chitta. But before we understand mana and chitta, let us understand the 5 sense organs, because they are the input gates of the mind. Your mind is collecting information through these 5 sense organs.
Yes.
Okay. So what are these 5? They are the shrotra, that is the ear, the skin, that is tvak, the chakshu, that is the eye, the rasana, that is the tongue, and the ghrana, that is the nose. And what information did they give? What senses do they give you? The shabda, the sound, the sparsha, that is the touch, sense of touch, the rupa, that is the vision, rasa, taste, and last is gandha, smell. So all these five senses are due to these five sense organs. Again, the same thing, not the anatomical components, the functional indriya. It is very important. And see, you can have a person who is having an anatomically healthy and proper eyeball, but that person can be blind because his chakshu indriya is not working. So that is the difference between the eye and the chakshu indriya.
The sense of the...
Yes, the sense organ. It is not the anatomical organ, it is the sense organ that we are talking about, which is the part of the Manomaya Kosha. And what happens is each of this sense organ takes in information which is specific to that sense. And it will take it to the mind will process it and then take it to the brain, where it will understand. Without the mind, the sense organ is useless. For example, I will tell you, I'm engrossed in reading a book. I'm reading whatever. I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita. I want to read Patanjali Yoga Sutra. I'm so in love with that topic. I'm completely engrossed in it. And you're in other room and you're calling me. I'm not able to hear you. My ears are in place. The sound waves are falling on my ears.
Yes.
But even then, my Shrotra Indriya is not working because my mind is not there.
It's diverted to something else.
Something else.
Right.
So the mind, and that is why all these are together in the Manomaya Kosha. That is what I wanted to highlight. Why the mana and the five organs are together. Because they are working.
And I think
together.
This often... this happens often when someone, especially with kids, we see these days, they're engrossed in something and the parents might be calling them out and they might be just not listening because their mind is somewhere else. They are
somewhere
either
else,
reading or... So I think that's...
so also it is to the parents. They are not deliberately ignoring you or insulting you. Their mind is not there, so they are not able to hear.
Correct.
Okay. So we come to the most important, from which the definition of the name of the Manomaya Kosha comes, the mana component of the mind.
Yes.
So what is mana? Mana is that part of your mind which is constantly being conflicted. It is said sankalpa vikalatmakaha mana. Okay. To be or not to be, to do this or not to do this. Constantly you are in two minds. There are no two minds. The mana is playing both parts. Okay. So this part of the mind is mana, where you are having constantly conflicting issues. That is the mana. And all our emotions, your happiness, sorrow, whatever you feel, anger, everything, it is felt. This emotional component is part of this Manomaya Kosha. So that is not only the mental sheet, you can say this is also the emotional sheet. And in this way, we come to the last component of the Manomaya Kosha, that is the Chitta. Now, Chitta is that component of the mind wherein all your memories are stored. All the impressions are stored. Whether you are aware of your conscious mind is aware of having made that impression or not. subconsciously on your mind, each and every experience that you are having is imprinted on the chitta. And not only of this life, of all the lives that you have lived before. Okay?
Wow.
So it happens that sometimes you can dislike a person on sight. Just you look at some person and you feel you don't want to meet him. And sometimes you meet someone, you have just met that person and you feel, oh, this is my long last partner. Something like that. So this is because of the chitta. What in modern science we call as intuition is this chitta component. Some memories rising from it, from the subconscious mind, from the chitta part of your mind, and that is what we call intuition. Or what we call gut feeling in common language.
Gut feeling, yes.
Yes. So that is why it is said, trust your gut feeling. Don't act on it, but trust it. Yes.
Trust it, yes.
Yeah. Why not to act on it? Because the decision to act is the component of the next kosha we are going to. That is the Vijnanamaya kosha.
Wow, this is getting getting interesting, Dr. Preeti. This is getting so interesting. So such a wonderful, my God, lovely.
And so we are coming to Vijnanamaya kosha, the components of which are Buddhi and Ahankar. That is the intellect. So this sheath is called the sheath of the intellect. Understand again, Buddhi is the third component of the mind, but it is more subtler, and Ahankar is even more subtler. So what is Buddhi? We said that the mind is constantly in dilemma, to do, not to do, to be, not to be. So how do we ever reach a decision? If it was left to the mind, we were constantly going, like a yo-yo, our mind would keep on doing ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. So who will take the decision? That is Buddhi. Because Nishchayatmakaha Buddhi. The Nishchay is made of by the Buddhi. The power of discrimination is in Buddhi. What is discrimination? Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. What is permanent and impermanent? That is what the Shastra says. But for our understanding, what is right and wrong? What is Shreyas and what is Preyas? That is made by Buddhi. Let's take an example. A person is diabetic and he loves the rasagullas. Okay? The mind is going to say, oh, this is lovely rasagulla, I want you to have it. Second mind will say, nahi, aaj ka sugar 350 tha. But again your mind will say, oh, I love it, once I should taste it. And mind is in cahoots with the sense organ. That tongue also wants to taste, no? So, who will take the decision? For this person, it is prayers, because it is priya to him to eat. The prayers is the longing to eat that rasgulla. But it is not shreyas. It is not good for him. So, Buddhi will say, so the Buddhi will say, no, you have to act on the shreyas. So this decision, this power of discriminated thinking, it is unique to the humankind. Only humans can discriminate between the right and wrong, between the shreyas and the preyas. And this is because of the Buddhi. In Kathopanishad, I would like to tell you one lovely metaphor. In Kathopanishad, there is a story, okay, in which the body is compared to a chariot drawn by horses. So the chariot is the body. The 5 sense organs, the 5 senses are the horses. They want to just go away in this direction, that direction. Wherever there is attraction, it wants to go. So who will rein in this chariot? The reins are the mind. The mana is the reins. And who is holding the rein? the buddhi is holding the reins. So now it is clear how important it is to have the power of a good intellect. Good intellect is not sharp intellect, not a great IQ.
Yeah.
Good is in form of being able to discriminate between the Shreyas and the Preyas. The Nitya and the Anitya. That is, as you go advanced into your studies, you will understand. The Nitya and Anitya, what is permanent and what is impermanent in this world. Because we are in the quest of permanent happiness, no? So we have to understand that impermanent things cannot give permanent happiness.
Absolutely.
And so, this is the prerogative of the buddhi. And now we come to the last part of the Vidyanmaya Kosh, that is the Ahankar. That is the fourth component of the mind.
Yeah.
Ahankar is such a misunderstood word in the common language. In our mindsets, Ahankar is pride, Ahankar is ego. Ahankar in Shastra, in Vedanta, is not that. Ahankar is aham kartu iti ahankar. That sense of identity, that sense of I-ness is ahankar. See, what is it that separates Ashwini Chubey is different, Dr. Preeti Kulkarni is different,
Right.
some all people in the world are different. So how do they understand? That understanding that I am different from all the people on the world, that sense of difference, that sense of I-ness is ahankar. Okay, we
And
identify
this is
Yeah.
contrary to what we've been told about ahankar, right? Like,
Yes, that is why I said
right?
such a negative. This highlight has been put on the word ahankar in our common language. Actually, see, the basic root of it is understanding who am I. I am different from this. So that I am, when that I am becomes I am better, I am right, I am the only one who is right. That is the negative part, and that has
Yeah.
become more prevalent in the
Yes.
everyday languages.
Yes. Yes.
That sense of I-ness is something which gives us identity. I am somebody's mother, I am somebody's sister, I am somebody's daughter. I am. That I am is ahankar. So long as you don't understand that I am different from everyone else, how is it that you will understand who am I? So that sense of I is ahankar. Okay? And now we are going into your Anandamaya Kosh.
Anandamaya Kosh.
Yes. This is the. Here we are finished with the subtle body. We are going into the causal body, the Karana Sharir. It is even more ethereal. It is closest to the Atman. Some can say it is the reflection of the Atman. Okay. So, it is composed of karma and samskara. We can say Anandamaya Kosh is the karmashay, the collection of all karmas, or the holder of all karma of this and all the past lives. We are all familiar with the concept of karma yoga, the law of karma. Even if you don't understand it as law of karma, everybody knows that, at least knows whether we follow it or not is different, but you know that
we are aware of it.
Yeah, good will beget good, bad will beget bad. So good thoughts, good actions, good behavior, good personality, everything will result in good. So where are all our actions stored? See, sometimes we see a person who is really truly good in nature. That person is helpful, that person is kind, and that person faces lots of unfortunate incidences in life, unfortunate accidents, tragedies. And what is the common reaction? Arey, evda changla manus hota, such a good person. Why is all the misfortune falling on his head? No, that is not the answer. The answer is in the karma share. There is some karma from your past which is bringing fruit now. So all your present and the past lives, the collection of all the karmas is here. The fruits of those karmas is in this Anandamay Kosh. And so we have to understand that it is not always easy to control this course, because you have no control over your past, no? Past life you have no control. You have control only
Yes.
on today, this moment, whatever karma you are doing now. And so that is the only way. That is why it is said karmanyeva adhikar asti. You don't have any control. You don't have any adhikar
Yes.
over what, because the past lives you don't have any control of it. You just have to accept that this is the fruit of some action which has been done in the past. And so collection of all these karmas is in the Anandamay Kosh. And samskar. Samskar, you know, is the impressions of all the actions that we have done, impressions of all the actions, impressions of all our surroundings. So we have this wonderful word that samskar kele jatat. In Marathi we say that.
Yes.
Our
Yes.
parents, our elders, our teachers, the
Yes.
people that we look up to, good books that we read, all of these have good impressions on our mind. These impressions are called samskar. And so this Anandamay Kosh is composed of the karma and the samskar. And thus we have seen the components of all the 5 koshas.
Wonderful. My God. And that was so much profound learning for me. I've already taken notes, and I'm sure there is so much more to know about them, because wow, I'm just amazed. I'm totally amazed by how beautiful it was. And we looked at all pancha koshas and then pancha indriyas and pancha mahabhuta, and it's not a coincidence we are doing it on 5/5, which is the 5th of May. So I think the number 5 has a very strong impact on today's discussion. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Preeti, now going a little ahead, and this is a question which I have right now is, we talk about koshas, but how do they connect with our modern lifestyle? For instance, when we talk about prevalence of modern lifestyle diseases, how do these diseases relate to the panchakoshas and any imbalances in them?
Yes, I have a very beautiful theory from the Yoga Vashishta to share with you. Yoga Vashishta, as
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
is a part of the
Yeah.
Valmiki Ramayana, wherein
Yes.
the Rishi Vashishta
Yeah.
is teaching Sri Ram. He's imparting knowledge to Sri Ram.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this Yoga Vashishta, while telling Rama, Rishi Vashishta is saying that he has explained the 5 koshas. And then he's saying that the mind is constantly going around in circles.
Yeah.
Okay? There is no time where your mind is not running around. Something is keeping on happening there in the mind. The thoughts are circling in our mind. That's what we say.
Yeah.
They may not be new thoughts. Most of the thoughts are repetitive, and majority of them are useless.
Yes.
Not fruitful, but they are in a loop. The mind is running in a loop, circuit, and so this constant. Maharshi Patanjali has a very wonderful word for this. He's saying it is vikshape of the mind. Vikshape, haphazard movement of the mind. And this vikshape is constantly disturbing the Manomay Kosh. If your thoughts are angry thoughts, if your thoughts are stressful thoughts, if your thoughts are continuously bad thoughts, negative thoughts, they are going to disturb the balance of the Manomay Kosh.
Yes.
Okay? And when this Manomay Kosh is imbalanced, it is disturbed, it tends to disturb the immediate course before it, that is the pranamaya course.
Hmm.
So the energy channel, the energy sheath in our body is disturbed.
Right.
72,000 nadis are flowing. The flow of prana in this is disturbed. The energy blockages are created. Energy cannot flow in its normal natural rhythm. And
Hmm.
this disturbance is in the pranamaya kosh, because prana is giving energy to each and every cell in the body. So
Right.
once that pranic energy is disturbed, what is disturbed is the cellular environment is disturbed. At the
Hmm.
level of the cell, there is disturbances. If cell is disturbed, the tissue gets disturbed. Multiple tissues get disturbed. The organ gets disturbed. Multiple
Hmm.
organ gets disturbed. The whole system gets disturbed. And this is the pathology of the psychosomatic disease, from the mind to the energy to the gross physical body. And this is how
Hmm.
disease is created. And so this is the way which we can relate the five koshas to the
Yeah.
disease aspect.
Right, right. Because today there are so many lifestyle diseases, and people just keep saying that, oh, nowadays everyone is falling sick. But if we look at this in detail and we realize that it's a holistic way of looking at health, I think that can just change a lot for the people who are aware about this, who educate themselves on this and understand that diseases are not just coming from somewhere and how this
Somewhere.
all is related. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. See, diseases are created in this way. There has to
Hmm.
be some shortcoming in some portion
Yeah.
of your body.
Yes.
Otherwise, no virus, no bacteria, no any whatever maybe by any outside microorganism can affect your body.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
still there is some shortcoming in some kosha.
Hmm. Hmm.
There has to be some thing lacking in some kosha,
Right.
and then that is where the disease will start.
Right.
There is a very wonderful definition of health in Ayurveda. It
Hmm.
is saying that sama dosha, sama agni, sama
Hmm.
dhatu malakriya,
Hmm.
prasanna atma indriya mana swastha iti abhidhyate. So this is the
Hmm.
definition of health. Dosha means the vata pitta kapha. They are the pillars
Right.
of our constitution according to him. The
Hmm.
agni, that is the digestive power, not only
Hmm.
digestive power, but each of these the dosha and dhatu have their agni. All the
Hmm.
seven dhatus, the blood, the muscles, the bones, all these, their process of elimination,
Hmm.
everything is going on in summer level, the balanced. It is not too much and it
Hmm.
is not too low. So summer,
Okay.
that is
Right.
important. But not only this gross physiological functions.
Hmm.
Ayurveda is saying prasanna, atma, indriya, and mana. All these three
Hmm.
also have to be prasanna, and then only that person is healthy. So today you can be physically healthy in the anatomical sense, but if
Yeah.
your mind is stressed, if you are
Yeah.
depressed, the
Yeah.
disease is in the psyche, in the mental disease, but tomorrow it is going to manifest in some organ of the body. So a
Hmm.
person
Hmm.
who is physically healthy but mentally disturbed is not healthy.
It's not a healthy person. And this
Yes,
is so important because a lot of people only, although yes, there is, we need to keep our body fit and we need to eat well and exercise well, but that's a base of it. But apart from that, training your mind and making your mind making yourself happier is, I think, the key of living a healthy life. So that's why they say happy life, healthy life, right? So that is where
yes,
all the root of everything starts.
yes.
Wow.
That's true.
So I think that was so many misconceptions have been cleared, and there has been so much insight which has taken place. Um, Now, just coming to as we move towards the end of this, I just would like to ask. when we look at Panchakoshas, how do they enhance our overall awareness and spiritual growth? And also, we already spoke about lifestyle diseases, but how do they relate to different aspects of our being? And how could we use this wisdom to optimize our health and make our life not just healthy but also happier and better?
Yes. Um, Let us start with each kosha, how it is relating to
Yes,
health. Like
yes,
what we can
yes.
do to keep that kosh healthy. That
Yeah,
is how I'm looking at this question. So when
right.
we are looking at Annamaya Kosh,
Yeah,
we know that it is made of food, nourished by food, sustained by
yes,
food.
yes.
Okay, so healthy food. Healthy food is not just food, healthy food,
Yeah,
healthy water, healthy thoughts.
yeah,
Everything is food.
right.
So food, as we saw, when we saw even in Ayurveda, even in yoga, even in Bhagavad
Yeah,
Gita,
yeah,
how to eat, how much to eat, what to eat. So much stress has been placed on this in our ancient science. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, the ahar that we eat, it has been divided into the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic types.
yeah.
Like what type of food you eat will determine what type of personality you are going to develop. Such a profound wisdom. So, what you eat is, of course, important. A healthy, balanced diet, of course, all the micronutrients and everything you need. But
Yeah.
apart from that, how you eat, what position are
Hmm.
you sitting in, what
Hmm.
are you doing when you're eating? Are you watching the TV? Is your attention in your mobile phone? Or are you talking happily to your family members and you're eating? That
Right.
concept of family dinners was so important to the Indian, to all societies, but it is so
Yes.
important to health. That also we have to understand, because if you are eating in a positive, enriching atmosphere where you are surrounded by love.
Hmm.
If you are eating in a negative atmosphere, like we have a lot of those Hindi movie types of things where you see there is a stepmother. Old Hindi movies always had this. Even Cinderella, the story of Cinderella is there, no?
Yeah,
There
yeah,
is a
yeah,
wicked stepmother. She will
yeah.
give all the stale unwanted food in some broken vessel to the stepchild, and constantly, not only that, top of that, she will bombard with all negative sentiments.
Negative talk.
you are
Yes,
you are
yes,
such a failure, you are such a
yes.
morons, no good, no this, that.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
can a person eat food in this atmosphere and the food be
Right.
digested well? How can
Hmm.
that food nourish your body? How can that food
Yeah,
nourish your soul? And so
right.
where you eat, how you eat is also important. Here, another important thing I would like to highlight, which has always been a component of our ancient lifestyle, which you say.
Yeah,
Because if you see the ancient way of living, was very scientific. We
yeah.
have observed that almost all throughout our country, whenever, even many of Western countries also, before you start eating food, you pray. They will say
Yes,
grace, we pray, because that attitude of eating food as an offering to God. In Indian philosophy, we are eating it as an offering to the Agni, which is within our stomach, the
yes.
Jathar Agni. So we are eating
Hmm.
that food as an offering to that. I am
Right,
sure
right.
you are all familiar with that shloka. We say
Vadanika
Vadanika.
Valageti.
Yes. So what is the second line of it? Vadanika
Udara Varana Navigeti.
Sani say yajna karma. So udara
Yajna
bharana,
Karma.
you are filling your stomach, but considering it what, as if you are
Yes.
offering to the yajna
Giving
of
Ahuti. Yes,
ahuti. Yes, ahuti to the
yes.
yajna. The yajna
To the
agni is what your jatar agni. So that
yeah.
feeling, it creates such a profound sense of um, well-being. Some hormones
Yes.
are released in your body which are
Yeah.
helpful in digesting the food and assimilating to the food into the proper components. So
Yeah.
this attitude with which you eat, so all these are going to nourish your annamaya kosh.
Hmm.
Then also you have to understand this is a gross body made up of muscles and
Yeah.
bones, and so exercise. The yogic part
Yeah.
we are looking at is asana. You are looking at Shatkarma,
Yes.
the different yogic methods of purification. They are called Shatkarmas. They also can
Yeah.
purify and enhance your Annamaya Kosha. And also sleep, the most important component.
Hmm.
Proper sleep, because you need sleep to rest and restore. See a small baby, what is it doing? 22 hours the baby is sleeping.
Sleeping.
But
Yes.
the baby is not only sleeping, the baby is growing. The
Yeah.
maximum growth occurs in that time. And so sleep. Even modern
Yep.
science has been able to prove the lesser you sleep, there are a
Yep.
lot of metabolic changes. In fact, there have been
Yep.
studies which have proved lesser than 6 hours of sleep, lesser than 5 hours of sleep have been directly related to the metabolic syndromes, diseases like obesity, diabetes,
Okay.
thyroid,
Hmm.
PCOD, cardiovascular events. All this, why are they enhanced so much in today's world? We are seeing so many young people
Hmm.
succumbing to heart attacks. Otherwise, they were looking healthy,
Hmm.
they were doing proper exercise, having good diet. Then what was wrong? The lack of sleep. And
Hmm.
so, to nourish the Annamaya Kosh, proper food, proper exercise, that is asana, sukshma vayam, shatkarma, and proper sleep is important.
Hmm.
Then we go on to the Pranamaya Kosh.
Yeah.
The Pranamaya Kosh, we know the grossest form is the breath. And so,
Yeah.
to control the prana, you control the breath. So,
Yeah.
how you breathe? What is there to breathe? You will say that we breathe. Normally, we breathe, no? Do we consciously breathe, though? Do we say, oh,
No.
I forgot to breathe, I forgot to take a breath, what to do? No. The breath
Hmm.
is going on from birth till you die. But
Yes.
what pranayam is? To alter the rhythm, the duration, and the gap
Hmm.
between the inhalation, the exhalation. That is pranayam. And once you control the breath, you are controlling the energy channels of the body.
Hmm.
And so, the health of the pranamaya kosh can be enhanced by healthy breathing, pranayam.
Yeah.
Of course, pranayam is not only healthy breathing, pranayam is much, much more. But
Yeah.
just for common understanding, that is what I would like to say.
For starters, we can say that.
Yes, for starters. Then we come to the manomaya kosh. So, mana, we have seen the 5 sense organs which are forever rushing towards their senses of pleasure.
Yeah.
And the mind, at least the mind will rein in the senses of pleasure. So what will give strength to the mind? What will
Hmm.
strengthen the mind is
Hmm.
slowing down of the mind, silencing
Hmm.
the mind. Patanjali is saying yoga chitta vritti nirodha. What is yoga? तो चित्त में उठने वाले जो वृत्तियां है जो कंटिन्यूअसली चलती रहती है उनका अवरोध करना योग है. To stop that, to control that is yoga, and that is the manomaya kosh. So you are going to strengthen it by silencing the mind. How are you
Yeah.
going to silence the mind? Various types of meditations are there. All
Yeah.
of us are focusing on silencing the mind.
Yeah.
Whether it is the vipassana, whether it is the other many multiple, we are saying types of meditations are there. Each meditation, the goal is to create a no thought stage in the
Yeah.
mind, creating a shunyavastha in the mind, and
Hmm.
that will strengthen the manomaya kosh.
Hmm.
Then we go on to the vijnanamaya kosh. As we go subtler, the ways
Yeah.
of purifying them or nourishing them also become more and more difficult and more subtle.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, Vijnanamaya Kosh, it is the sheath of intellect. So, what is going to enhance it is knowledge.
Hmm.
Knowledge of what? Knowledge of who am I. Understanding that sense of who am I. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not the breath. Then who am
Yeah.
I? That understanding. So, how will you enhance that understanding? by listening to scriptures, by understanding scriptures, by listening to talks, whatever we are discussing, like that, something like that, reading good books, going through scripts, clearing
Yeah.
your doubts with discussions. It is called satsanga. The word
Yes.
in our text is satsanga. When you are clearing the doubts, listening to the good thoughts with
Yes.
good people, that is satsanga. So that is one of the way to enrich and strengthen the Vijnanamaya Kosh. And we come to the Anandamaya Kosh,
Yes.
closest to the Atman and most difficult to maintain happiness, because that happiness has to be so profound and so difficult. It is so very difficult to attain. So throughout mankind, Bhakti Yoga has been given as one of the best means or the easiest mean for common persons
Yeah.
to enrich the Anandamaya Kosh. And for the more enlightened and the more advanced people, there is the state of Samadhi, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi.
Samadhi. Yeah.
So that is what is going to enhance the Anandamaya Kosh. And in this
And
way,
is that the reason why we feel happy when we are in the state of devotion,
yes,
when we
yes,
connect, yeah, when we connect to
yes,
a particular God, and yeah,
yes. That also they are nine, Navavidha Bhakti, there are 9 steps
yeah,
described in Bhagavata.
yeah,
And when you
yes,
reach the
yes,
last step, where it is Atma Samarpan, there is nothing
yeah,
left of you. It is only the
yeah,
Almighty. It is only the God in whichever form that you see God.
yeah.
So it is stepwise. You have to start with Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, Archanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, and then you will go to the Atmanivasa.
Okay.
It is very, very profound, very, very beautiful. And I think very few people are able to let go of themselves, of their identity of themselves to such an extent that they
Yeah.
are completely engrossed in the Bhakti Yoga. See, there are so few
Mm.
examples. We know Bhakti, when you say, whom do you think? You think of Hanuman, you think of
Yes.
Mirabai, you think of
Yes.
Tulsidas, you think of Namdev, Sant Eknath. That is Bhakti Yoga ka that parampara of Bhakti Yoga we have in our
Yes.
Indian continent. But it is so few who can forget oneself, who can forget the surroundings, forget their family, forget their ties, everything, and just be engrossed in the Lord.
Yes. Wow. This is so beautiful. I'm
Yes.
already feeling so enlightened with all of this, and wow. Dr. Preeti, just one quick question, because there was a topic where we spoke about prana. A lot of people in today's world, in a very common prevalence, people talk about prana as oxygen. Um, so could you just clarify this a bit, and about prana? So many people confuse prana as oxygen. So could you throw
Yeah,
some light on
I
that?
think what the confusion is, because we call oxygen as prana vayu in Marathi,
Prana
or
vayu.
yes, but why is it
Yes.
called prana vayu? So as I said, the
Hmm.
pranamaya kosh is the bridge between the gross and the subtle manomaya kosh. Okay,
Yeah.
so how is it? We said that food is going to nourish the
Yeah.
annamaya kosh. The
Yeah.
pran is the energy. So how is this energy going to be nourished? We know the law of physics. Energy is
Yeah.
not created, not destroyed. It is just
Yes.
converted from one form to other.
Yeah.
So understanding how this energy is nourished, how the pran in the body is nourished, we will
Hmm.
understand. Go by the concept of again the Pancha Mahabhuta. So
Hmm.
from Prithvi Tattva, we get food. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is also a way of nourishing prana,
Yes.
because it is the bridge. Then
Yes.
there is air. That air
Yeah.
contains the prana vayu, and
Yeah.
that is nourishing the prana shakti.
Right.
We are using two
Correct.
different words. Prana vayu is
Prana
oxygen,
vayu and prana
and
shakti.
prana shakti. So there is
Okay.
no confusion between them.
Yes. Yes.
Now
Yes.
that confusion is clear. So when you think
Yeah.
about air, the prana vayu is nourishing
Yeah.
the prana shakti in the body. Let us quickly see how others also. Water is also going to nourish. It is energy. It is
Yes.
the medium through which the blood is flowing and through which
Yes.
the energy is reaching each and every cell. So this is how prana is enhanced. Then comes fire. We are getting energy from the sun. Every living being is getting energy
Yes.
from the sun. That is Agni. Agni
Yes.
is giving, enhancing the prana in the body. And Akash.
Right.
For Akash, na,
Hmm.
it is a subtle thought. It is thoughts which are
Yeah.
enhancing the prana, as I said.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
Akash Tattva is the thought which is enhancing the prana.
Thoughts.
And so all these 5 tattvas are enhancing the prana shakti. So no,
Hmm.
prana is not the breath. Prana is
Yeah.
not the oxygen. Prana vayu is oxygen and prana is prana shakti. You know why it is called
Wow.
prana? It is pra and na. Na means to flow. Pra,
Hmm.
when you add the
Hmm.
suffix prefix to it, it is called. It says
Yeah.
constant flow. The energy which is
Okay.
constantly
Hmm.
flowing through the nadis is called prana.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. That was a, I mean, a lot of new learning for me, but this was a very profound one, pra and na, which was really
Yes.
great. Wow, and I think prana shakti and prana vayu make it very
Clear.
now this confusion will definitely get cleared with it. So I'm
Yes.
sure this one was wonderful. So, Dr. Preeti, do you think we should take up questions, if any of our, maybe we can take 3 questions because we are already, it's been more than an hour and we did not realize that
Yes.
our time is gone. Like when
Yeah.
we decided yesterday, we thought, okay, 45 minutes will be good, or 35 to 40 minutes, but now it's
Yeah.
almost an hour. So,
I
because we
hope
already
everybody
have
has been listening and nobody has been bored by the overextension.
I'm sure not. I'm enjoying, and I think I can go on and on too. But we have questions from Prachi, who's written on Instagram, where she's written that does this mean sometimes you surrender yourself to the Almighty for enriching the bhakti yoga or devotion? Prachi, do you want to just put that question so that we can ask Dr. Preeti about it? Because I saw you've written this, and maybe when the topic was going on, but do you want to put it like a question so that we can have more clarity on this? Thank you for watching, and thank you for saying that it was an amazing session. I'm so happy. So can you please put that as a question so that we can quickly ask Dr. Preeti about it? And meanwhile, I will also like to check if people on Instagram are on Facebook and on LinkedIn are asking, because there is Nitin ji who's joined late. Vibhavari ji, thank you so much for joining. And from LinkedIn, we have from Singapore, our folks from Singapore, Anaga Kostub, Devika Abhijit. So thank you for watching. Uh, LinkedIn, I think there is also Dhananjay on LinkedIn. Dhananjay, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please put across. We can take. So Prachi, if you just can reframe and put it out, we can quickly ask, and we can take 3 questions max today. So meanwhile, I'm going to say thank you to all people who watched. Vallari, Kanchan, thank you everyone. So, okay, so Prachi's question is, so when we say we want to be in a blissful state, does it mean we surrender our problems of or worries to the Almighty? And especially for those things which are not in control, I think that's a very that's a wonderful question.
Yes. Hi Prachi, thanks for watching. Yes, Bhakti Yoga is one path which will lead to bliss. Okay, we are understanding what is our quest. The quest is to have permanent, indestructible happiness. How are we going to get it? When you understand who am I, when ultimately, see, that is the goal of or the teachings of all our Shastras, you have to understand Aham Brahmasmi, that the Brahman and you are same. But for that, to reach that level, each student has his own standard. You cannot ask a first standard student to solve a 12th standard paper. That first standard student has to pass each standard and reach that level. Then only you can appear for the 12th standard exam. So one path is going to Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti will lead to Jnana Yoga. So for common people, for you and me, it is maybe considered easy, that path, as I said, Navavid Bhakti, to follow those where first you are listening about God. See, understand, at this level you are saying God is different and I am different. Bhakti Yoga is that, understanding that you are different. The end of Bhakti Yoga, where is it is coming, that step when you are completely surrendering to God. But then also that feeling of surrender is there. At that level also, that sense of difference is there. I am surrendering to God.
Yeah.
After that is going to come the Jnana Yoga, where you are going to understand that I am God. So what you are saying, Prachi, for people like us who are yet at the beginning levels, yes, Bhakti Yoga is the way to go into bliss, where you can surrender everything and all your thoughts, all your actions to God. Two thoughts I would like to share. If we are running out of time, Ashwini, you can please
No,
stop.
we are not. No, absolutely not. I think it's great. It's great. Please go on.
Yeah. So I would like to share two things. In Bhakti, for Bhakti Yoga to be successful, you have to understand that there are things which you cannot change, that there is a power which is greater than you. That poem which the AA has it, the Alcoholic Anonymous, do you know their prayer? Oh God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So everywhere that surrendering to God, that feeling, now that you just follow it for every day. I think all the cultures of the modern civilization have this thing, that you have to be thankful to God. That feeling of samadhan, that feeling of gratitude will create in your mind, or will make your mind, as if a field is ready to be plowed in with better thoughts of knowledge. So Bhakti is creating that atmosphere in your mind wherein that higher knowledge can be gained.
Wow.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And another thing I wanted to say, the part of Karma Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is one path, Karma Yoga is another path. But there can be no karma without Bhakti also. Okay? Because one part of Karma Yoga, what is you do? Karma Yoga means offering each and every action that you do to the God, offering it to God and accepting whatever fruit is coming from that action as prasad from God. Okay, it is so profound. So till you have faith, you cannot do either. No, you cannot offer to something you don't believe in, and you cannot accept fruits of that labor as prasad if you don't believe in Ishwar. So Prachi, your answer is, whatever is your difficulty, yes, faith, surrendering to the higher energy, you can call God, you can call Lord, you can call Ganesha, Shiva, whatever it is an higher entity, something which is higher than you. You submit to it, and that is Bhakti Yoga, and that will lead to bliss.
Wow. As we say, samarpan to the lotus feet of Lord Rama, or that's what those are the words we often use.
Yes.
And that teaches us the truth of, when we live in that state, we always trust that there is a, like you said, when we are in the Bhakti Yoga, we trust that there is a higher power taking care of everything. Profound and great. And Prachi, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for asking, because I always believe whenever there is a question which one person asks, there are so many people who get benefited from that. So thank you for asking that question. And if there are any more questions, would love to have maybe a couple of more questions, or else maybe we can wait for a minute. If anyone wants, please drop a question. Also, on Facebook and on LinkedIn, on both the channels, if you drop a question, this will be as a recorded session. And if you're watching it on YouTube too, we will definitely will be able to see those questions. You can always post it to Dr. Preeti, or you can even drop us an email. You can drop us an email to us at Unicorn Insight, and we will redirect it to Dr. Preeti. If you all are aware of our email address, inbox.unicorninsight@gmail.com. Also, once this video is shared as a recording, we will definitely share the email address of Dr. Preeti, so that you can write directly to her and ask for anything. And I think that was so much of learning. Like I said, I've made my own. I've written everything. I've taken notes as much as possible, and I think for the next few days I'm going to just read those notes, and maybe read all that I have and understand um, all that we discussed today, because like a sponge, I have been soaking all of it in the past 1 hour. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching are also doing that. So thank you so much for all that great pearls of wisdom. I always say it's like pearls of wisdom which you shared today. So thank you so much, Dr. Preeti, for this great, wonderful life. It's truly, I feel, what Sachidananda means at the end of, as we come towards the end of this session. And for your profound insights on this, thank you so much.
I would also like to thank Dr. Ashwini and express my gratitude to all those who are present, who have removed time from their busy schedules to join us. It is inspiring to us also to talk, to share whatever thoughts we have. And I am grateful to whatever knowledge has been gained from my teachers. It is my small attempt to spread it, lighting a lamp with light, with a small lamp which has been given to me by my teachers. And so,
Right.
let us continue on this journey. Let us study more and more, think deeper and deeper, and ultimately reach the question of who am I?
Towards the Anandamay Kosh. And like I said, your wisdom has about the koshas has illuminated us from inside out. And as we would love to have you again on Sachidananda. And till then, until next time,
Yes,
thank you very
I
much.
would be honored. I would be honored to join you again. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you, everyone.